This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Kelly Wright in New York. Here's what's going on. You are looking at images right now from Southern California where a ferocious and deadly wildfire has broken out some 60 miles northwest of Los Angeles. The flames are being whipped by fierce winds and fueled by hundreds of acres of dry mountainous brush, forcing thousands of homes there to evacuate. Most of those evacuations are taking place in the town of Santa Paula, which is a population of about 30,000, and there's concern at this hour that the fire could soon threaten nearby Ventura. Now, that's a city of more than 100,000 people, and on our Fox News website, there's a statement from the Ventura County Fire Chief, Mark Lorenzen, who said the fire growth is just absolutely exponential. All that firefighters can do when we have winds like this is get out ahead of it, evacuate people, and protect structures. A nearby college, Thomas Aquinas College, a school of about 350 students, has also been evacuated, with students actually being told to go to their own homes or to those of faculty and staff, the college said in a statement. Now, the fire broke out late Monday and quickly exploded to more than 15 square miles in the hours that followed. Authorities tell us one person has been killed, unfortunately, in an auto accident related to this fire. At least 2 structures have been burned so far. Winds are exceeding 40 miles per hour and gusts over 60 miles per hour. So that's just fanning the flame through that dry area. So that's been reported in the area as well. And those flames are expected to continue because of the winds that are there. Firefighters and aircraft from neighboring Los Angeles and Santa Barbara counties were pouring in to help earlier. But darkness, as you can imagine, and these winds forced the grounding of planes late last night. So right now, here's what's happening. Thousands of homes in the area have lost power. People are obviously trying to get out of harm's way. And recapping for you, we are following the developments of a major brush fire fanned by powerful winds of 40 to 60 miles per hour. It's threatening homes and lives in Southern California's Ventura County this morning as we speak. At least 1 death related to this fire has been reported so far. Thousands of homes still being evacuated. We'll have more of this breaking story as we continue throughout the morning. Next hour on Fox and Friends First. And we now take you back to our regular programming, already in progress.
Constitutional, only that the justices will allow it to be enforced while the lower court challenges are still being fought. Even the White House acknowledges the battle ahead, quoting here, "The proclamation is lawful and essential to protecting our homeland. We look forward to presenting a fuller defense of the proclamation as the pending cases work their way through the courts." Opponents are also vowing to fight on, with the ACLU saying, quote, "President Trump's anti-Muslim prejudice is no secret. It is unfortunate that the full ban can move forward now. We continue to stand for freedom, equality, and for those who are unfairly being separated from their loved ones." And as evidence to bolster its claims that the president is motivated by anti-Muslim bias, the ACLU will point to some controversial videos the president recently retweeted. Critics say the videos themselves are anti-Muslim and were posted by an anti-Muslim group in the UK. The White House says the president was only trying to point out the threat from Islamic extremists is very real. 2 of the travel ban cases are still making their way through the lower courts. Both have oral arguments this week, and the Supreme Court is pushing for them to rule very quickly. We should note that Justices Ginsburg and Sotomayor are the only 2 who opposed allowing the current travel ban to move forward. Shannon.
All right, we will keep tabs on it, Trace. Thank you very much. And tonight, we are learning that FBI agent Peter Strzok, a high-ranking member of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team, was taken off the case because of texting anti-Trump messages and was behind at least 3 turning points in key investigations. Strzok reportedly helped persuade then FBI Director James Comey to forego prosecution of Hillary Clinton over her use of numerous private email servers for classified material. According to published reports, Strzok was one of a dozen FBI officials who got the salacious and unverified anti-Trump dossier that was bankrolled by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, and which the FBI may have used to launch a counterintelligence probe against Trump advisors. And Fox News has confirmed that Strzok oversaw the questioning of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. that led to his guilty plea last week. Ed Henry, chief national correspondent, explains what this all means for the special counsel investigation and an increasingly skeptical Congress. Ed?
Good to see you, Shannon. The mainstream media has been shaking its collective head at President Trump for lashing out at the FBI over the weekend. But the more we learn about this very senior FBI official, the more questions are being raised about whether the president is right on target about there being a double standard between how he and Hillary Clinton have been treated by the FBI. New tonight, it's been revealed that before James Comey cleared Clinton during the summer of 2016 in her email probe, the lead agent in that investigation, Peter Strzok, changed the draft language in Comey's statement in a dramatic way, shifting it from the FBI director saying it was, quote, grossly negligent, which hinted at potential crimes, to the much more lenient, extremely careless about Clinton's handling of the email server. It turns out that Peter Strzok had been sending his girlfriend, another FBI official, text messages that were very pro-Clinton and extremely anti-Trump, leading special counsel Robert Mueller to pull Strzok from his Russia probe because of bias concerns. The other key piece of information we've learned tonight is the anti-Trump Strzok helped conduct the FBI interview of retired General Mike Flynn, months after Strzok led the FBI interview, yes, of Hillary Clinton that was widely seen as being too gentle.
Hillary Clinton lied many times to the FBI. Nothing happened to her. Flynn lied, and they destroyed his life.
People have the right to assume the people that are investigating them are objective and have not already made up their minds. That's why we need to see the text and we need to interview this special agent. But the Bureau's had a really bad last 18 months, and this makes it worse, frankly.
Gowdy says there's no need for a second special counsel to investigate Clinton because the Trump Justice Department should be able to be all over this. Meanwhile, Republican Congressman Devin Nunes, head of the House Intel panel, is also pressing to see whether officials from the FBI and Justice Department need to face contempt of Congress charges for not revealing all of this sooner, Shannon.
All right, Ed, I understand there's also a new report suggesting that the president may have known in January that Michael Flynn had lied to the FBI. So what's the significance of that?
Well, I can tell you the president's legal team tonight is pushing back and scoffing at the idea that Robert Mueller is building a case for obstruction of justice after CNN reported today from one anonymous source that White House counsel Don McGahn told the president in January that Michael Flynn had not only lied to Vice President Mike Pence about his contact with the Russian ambassador, but had also misled the FBI. I just spoke tonight with Ty Cobb, a key White House lawyer, who said the president is going to end up being exonerated, declaring, quote, I don't know who's putting this out there. It's not fair to the special counsel and contrary to the interest of justice to be talking about it. I'm not going to talk about it. The significance is the president said in February he fired Flynn because of what was said to Pence. But if the president also knew that Flynn committed a crime by lying to the FBI, that would raise questions about the president's intent when he allegedly asked Comey to let the matter go. Now, this weekend, the president again denied Comey's account, tweeting, quote, I never asked Comey to stop investigating Flynn. Just more fake news covering another Comey lie. Even though Democrats are insisting this could lead to obstruction charges. Watch.
I think what we're beginning to see is the putting together of a case of obstruction of justice.
That would cause a constitutional crisis in the United States, and I hope Mueller doesn't do that. And Senator Feinstein simply doesn't know what she's talking about when she says it's obstruction of justice to do what a president is completely authorized to do under the Constitution.
So let me get specific. And Trey Gowdy told our own Brett Baer tonight he thinks the president's critics, who were claiming collusion with no evidence of that, are now shifting their argument to obstruction. Shannon?
All right, Ed Henry with the very latest. Thank you.
Good to see you.
And a big about face for the Roy Moore campaign tonight. The Alabama Senate candidate accused of having inappropriate sexual contact with teenagers decades ago. Fox News is confirming with a senior official that the Republican National Committee, the RNC, is once again pumping resources into Alabama in support of Moore. It's a big shift from their position in November when they pulled out of a joint fundraising agreement with the embattled candidate. Meanwhile, President Trump has come out with his clearest endorsement of Moore yet, who has denied all the sexual harassment allegations against him. The president tweeted, "Democrats' refusal to give even one vote for massive tax cuts is why we need Republican Roy Moore to win in Alabama. We need his vote on stopping crime, illegal immigration, border wall, military, pro-life, VA, judges, Second Amendment, and more. No to Jones, a Pelosi-Schumer puppet." Also tonight, another woman is sharing what she calls evidence of a relationship with Moore when she was 17 and he was 34. Debbie Wesson Gibson says she found a high school graduation card she says he gave her decades ago.
I've known Roy Moore for many years, and I met him in 1981, and we dated for a brief time, and we kissed with my consent, and I'm very sad that he's decided to say he doesn't know me.
The Alabama special election is 1 week from tomorrow. Is the president's tiff with Mitt Romney heating up again amid rumors that Romney may run for the Senate seat currently held by Utah Senator Orrin Hatch? The president heaped praise on Hatch during a visit to the state today and is reportedly urging him to run again.
We hope you will continue to serve your state and your country in the Senate for a very long time to come.
Also today, Romney hitting back at the president's endorsement of Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, tweeting this: "Roy Moore in the U.S. Senate would be a stain on the GOP and on the nation. Lee Korfman and other victims are courageous heroes. No vote, no majority is worth losing our honor, our integrity." Well, lawmakers have a jam-packed week and a potentially disastrous deadline looming on Friday, from tax reform to the threat of a government shutdown. Top Democrats are ratcheting up the fight over so-called dreamers, young illegal immigrants whose legal status will soon be in limbo, while top Republicans are saying if Dems try to leverage that issue and we wind up with the shutdown, they say blame the Democrats.
But by playing games and threatening to shut down the government unless our Democratic colleagues get what they want when they want, and engaging in stunts to shut down the government, they're only hurting their own cause and the very individuals they claim to be protecting.
All right, so buckle up. It could be a wild week. Chris Starwell, Fox News politics editor and editor of the Halftime Report, joins us to talk about it. Good to see you.
True that.
Okay, so this is looming on Friday. In the meantime, we understand the president has invited the two top Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, Chuck and Nancy as he likes to call them,
yes.
Back to a meeting on Capitol Hill. Last time they didn't show up because they said he wasn't legit. They weren't going to deal with each other.
His tweet was too unkind, so they did not attend.
So will they show up this time? Will they all make nice?
Well, so here's the thing. Their leverage grows as they get closer to the end of the year, because the Republicans are very happy that they got, with 51 votes, tax cut and sometimes increase through the Senate with 51 votes using a trick called budget reconciliation. It's a procedural end around. Well, they don't have that for the stuff they have to pass at the end of the year. They need 8 Democrats in order to not have fiscal calamity and disaster and credit breach and all of that razzmatazz. So this is where Democrats are going to start to exert that authority. The only problem is if you push it too hard and you are seen as taking too many hostages or doing that stuff endangering the economic health of the country, then it shifts. So right now the Democrats are sort of padding their way down the path. How far can they go to try to exploit this leverage without being seen as too opportunistic?
Well, okay, so this is what we have now. Here is a joint statement from Schumer and Pelosi saying about the meeting: "We hope the president will go into this meeting with an open mind rather than deciding that an agreement can't be reached beforehand." They add this: "We must, along with other things, come together on a bipartisan deal to pass the DREAM Act along with tough border security measures." It seems like this DACA DREAM Act situation is going to be a real potential wrench in the whole let's make nice.
Question is Trump placated by the Senate passing these tax cuts? If this having been done, does the president now feel a little more room, a little less tense about his legislative agenda, and becomes willing to just cut a deal at the end of the year? Because remember, what used to be the easy stuff in Washington, finish up your homework at the end of the year, make sure everything's done. Everything is now impossible because everything is broken. So as a consequence, doing these basic things require a lot of deal making and a lot of agonizing. The question is the president ready to let this be finished and sort of let them cut a deal, or does he want to fight?
Okay, but the same day that we get word that this meeting is going to happen, the invitations come and they've accepted. He also tweets this about the Alabama race. He says, "Putting Pelosi, Schumer, liberal puppet Jones into office in Alabama would hurt our great Republican agenda of low on taxes, tough on crime, strong on military borders, and so much more." He goes, goes on. But the fact is, he starts off this tweet calling them liberal puppets, or that he would be a liberal puppet. That doesn't sound like they're going to be BFFs.
I think Puppet Jones was the starting halfback for Alabama. I'm not sure, but Puppet Jones. Look. The situation in Alabama, the Republicans have just completed a very thorough beclowning of themselves. They take the money away from They take the money away from Roy Moore. We're not going to help Roy Moore anyway because it's moral outrage and all of this. And then a few weeks later, they say, well, maybe he'll win. When they took the money away, they thought he was going to lose. So now that it looks like he might win, they're putting the money back in because they're going to try to claim credit for the victory and all of this stuff. And they want Roy Moore to play nice. And again, it is a wonder to me any more that anybody is a member of either of these two political parties, given all of the absolute ridiculousness that you get to see on a day-by-day basis.
Well, and some people thought this was ridiculous from Nancy Pelosi, the House Minority Leader, today. She characterized where we are. Here's what she said.
No, it is the end of the road. This healthcare, the debate on healthcare is life, death. This is Armageddon, a gift to corporate America of $1.5 trillion, could be up to $1.5 trillion, will be paid for by the growth it creates. And even their own people say, nonsense, not true.
Okay, so end of the world and Armageddon.
Who
laughs about Armageddon?
I think as a nation, we're all Steny Hoyer, who was standing behind her like, oh no, here we go. Like, oh, here we go again. So what's left to say after you've said that? And the other thing, one of the reasons the Democrats are struggling on messaging, if every change to the budget or the tax code means that people die, because they just go always to people are going to die if this tax is cut, or if this happens, people are going to die, it loses all meaning. All this hyperbole, it is verbal inflation that ends up with worthless currency, and that's where the Democrats are on this.
So where do we go from here? I mean, Friday is coming.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot to decide before Friday.
They'll fake it for 2 weeks. They'll try to punt it for 2 weeks to get a little thing, and then they will roll it all up into one big ball and stick it to the taxpayers and stick it to everybody at the end of the year, because that's the Christmas present we get every year in Washington.
And they said they want to go home for Christmas.
Well, don't we all?
So, yes, we do.
But we'll be here at Fox News at night.
We will be here. All right. Chris, good to see you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, now that the Trump administration can fully enforce the travel ban thanks to tonight's Supreme Court ruling, we're going to hear from a guest who wants additional steps to keep suspected terrorists out of the homeland. And yet another Democrat gets caught up in the sex harassment scandals plaguing the nation's capital. Details straight ahead. Also, check this out. Exploded today. Didn't go down without a fight. We're going to show you exactly what happened next. The White House celebrating tonight as the Supreme Court upholds the administration's right to enforce Travel Ban 3.0 while the legal challenges in the lower courts play out. The ACLU and others say they will continue to fight to stop the travel ban involving 8 nations, 6 of them majority Muslim. On the other side, the administration's also under pressure from critics who say it is not doing enough and that additional steps need to be taken to prevent terrorists from getting into this country. Christopher Farrell joins us now, Director of Investigations for Judicial Watch. Great to see you tonight.
Hey, Shannon.
Thanks for coming in. Okay, so I want to read you a couple of reactions to this decision by the Supreme Court today. CARE, a lot of our viewers are going to be familiar with them. Their National Litigation Director says this decision ignores the very real human consequences to American citizens and their families abroad imposed by President Trump's Muslim ban 3.0. Their words calling it a Muslim ban. The ACLU has to say this to say, President Trump's anti-Muslim prejudice is no secret. He has repeatedly confirmed it, including just last week on Twitter. It's unfortunate that the full ban can move forward for now. Your reaction?
Well, the black letter law gives the president virtually unlimited power with respect to who enters the country. It's just that simple. And that was the question before the Supreme Court. And so, the court decided correctly. They didn't invent anything. They didn't manufacture some new standard. They read what the law said. They see what the president did. And he has that authority. So it's remarkably cut and dry. And I'm very pleased that the court did not go far beyond their bounds or start inventing new tests that aren't there.
Well, how come so many other courts decided that this was unconstitutional and couldn't be enforced?
Well, because there's an agenda there, right? There's a political ideologues who want to advance their particular position. And you can find a judge, you can forum shop, you can figure out a way to get something in front of somebody who's going to make a decision in your favor. But ultimately, it's up to the Supreme Court to decide that.
So we know Justices Ginsburg and Sotomayor said they would not have taken this action. And now we have to wait for the case to actually get there on the merits, because there are these two lower courts that we'll hear it this week. Could be decided before the end of the term in June. The White House said they weren't surprised by this decision, and they anticipate they will win at the Supreme Court.
And I tend to agree with them. I mean, it has to be ripe. It has to get to the point where the Supreme Court will review it. But I think you come back to the same fundamental question. Does the president have the authority to decide who comes in and out of the country? And the answer is yes. Okay.
Now, I wanted to ask you also about this bill that's being offered up by Representative Rokita. And it essentially is going to have penalties for local and state lawmakers who allow their localities and municipalities to become sanctuary states. It would actually include jail time for them, up to 5 years in prison, fines of up to $1 million if they obstruct federal immigration authority efforts. Do you think it goes anywhere?
No, it will not go anywhere. I get where he's coming from. I get the sort of the sentiment or the intention, the frustration, because it's really a byproduct of the horrible decision that was made, I think, with respect to the Steinle murder. But it's really sort of like a legislative acting out, right? It can't survive as a law. There already are sufficient laws on the books right now to hold public officials accountable.
Does that happen, though? Does anyone ever get prosecuted or put away for refusing to comply with the feds? Because what opponents of this whole idea will say is, you can't force states and localities to do the feds' job. You can't force them to cooperate when they make a request for holding somebody, detaining somebody. You can't do it.
Well, we just had a victory in San Francisco in that regard. Civilly, we've pressed to say that localities, municipalities can't prohibit officers from communicating with each other. For example, right now in a place like Phoenix or San Francisco, local police officers can speak with every other law enforcement agency you could imagine, the whole alphabet soup of initials, except ICE, right?
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that just does not pass the common sense small test.
It doesn't.
But we know that courts, a federal court recently has struck down the administration's attempt to cut off funding for sanctuary cities. I'm sure that will have a lengthy and winding road through the appellate process as well.
Yeah.
All right, Christopher Farrell, always good to see you.
Thank you very much, Jenna.
All right, check this out. We want to show you live pictures of a massive fire. This is just north of Los Angeles. We're getting these pictures in. This is in Ventura County. About 500 homes have been evacuated. No injuries reported, but the fire is being driven by strong winds. We're told they're approximately 20 to 30 miles an hour. This area hasn't burned apparently in 20 to 30 years, but it is burning towards the city of Santa Paula, threatening homes there. Firefighters have mounted an aggressive attack. They have ordered 3 additional strike teams with more resources to come. The pictures tell the story. We will keep you updated as we learn more about that. And check this out. There it goes. The Detroit Lions Stadium demolition is finally a success. And this is one of those second times the charm for the Pontiac Silverdome. On Monday, the Silverdome's upper level was finally brought down. This happens after thousands of onlookers gathered on Sunday, but they actually left disappointed because the explosion failed to bring down the second level. Now it's all gone. The Lions played at the Silverdome in Detroit from 1975 through 2001. Well, top congressional Democrat Nancy Pelosi responding tonight to the latest allegations of sexual harassment in her party. Plus, Congressman John Conyers has a big announcement tomorrow. We're going to tell you what we're hearing about what he may say. And the White House says it's putting the public back in public lands. We'll investigate the peril and promise of today's big moves on national monuments in Utah.
Some people think that the natural resources of Utah should be controlled by a small handful of very distant bureaucrats located in Washington. And guess what? They're wrong.